This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Hey, Real Talkers, it's one of those shows where the small talk at the beginning is a big part of what we're going to talk about, right? Like if you're connecting with your friends or if you're meeting at the water cooler at work, or maybe in 2026, if it's your first work Zoom call of the day, the first 90 seconds are probably going to be somewhat Super Bowl related, maybe somewhat Bad Bunny related, or maybe you'll be talking about the Olympic Games or something else. So why on earth would we leave Supriya Dwivedi on the sidelines for that? We won't. Let's get the presenting details out of the way and then bring in our regular Monday guest. Our friends at RapidX Financial are the ones that are bringing this episode to you right now. You can check them out anytime online at rapidxfinancial.com. You know, the crypto world moves fast, but your trust in an exchange, it can't be a gamble, and that's why Real Talk is proud to partner with RapidX Financial, a made-in-Alberta solution backed by the same experts behind those Rapid Cash ATMs that you've seen across Canada for more than 25 years. RapidX makes it easy to get started with 3 different ways to trade Bitcoin. One of their physical crypto ATMs. They've got an over-the-counter desk for discrete, larger value trades, or if you could use a little human guidance, and then, of course, the secure online platform. A special offer there for you because you're hearing about RapidX on this show. If you go to rapidxfinancial.com and use the promo code Ryan50, Ryan50, they'll take 50% off fees for all your online Interac e-transfer trades. That's Ryan50 at rapidxfinancial.com. It's secure, it's FinTrack registered, and crucially, it's non-custodial, meaning that you always control your keys. It's Real Talk and real Bitcoin at rapidxfinancial.com.
Butter, Sophie, say cheese.
I had the distinct pleasure of hosting the Super Bowl party at On the Rocks.
What
That's
a
where
party.
this show's technical director, Johnny Infamous, settled up beside me. And of course, we talked about our dear friend Supriya Dwivedi and what we may lead off with on the morning after the Super Bowl. Supriya, of course, joining us courtesy of our friends at Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. It's nice to see you.
The Super Bowl or the Benito Bowl, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a fair point.
The Bunny Bowl.
The Bunny Bowl.
The Bunny Bowl. Yeah.
I think Hugh Hefner tried to trademark Bunny Bowl like 50 years ago. I don't know if he ever got the rights.
I hope he didn't.
Yeah.
And just now that we've got this amazing performer. And I mean, let's just jump right into it. Like, I loved everything about it. I thought the production value was amazing. The celeb cameos, the choreography, you know, of course, the subtle messaging at the end, which perhaps wasn't so subtle because it led all of MAGA, including the President of the United States, to kind of lose their mind over it. But I mean, look, I'm not a football fan. I think both you and Johnny have surmised this from the jump. I was very much looking forward to the Super Bowl, specifically for the halftime show. And yeah, man, he delivered. I think there was a lot of, hype surrounding it. And it's very easy to not meet the very high bar and high expectations that are set. But yeah, Bad Bunny did it.
I see Bucky, by the way, in our live chat powered by Park Power that says Kid Rock was poorly lip-syncing in his performance yesterday. What a joke. I appreciate Bucky checking in because that's actually the first review I've heard of Kid Rock's alternative halftime show. We can get to that in just a little bit. But Johnny Infamous, this show's official, unofficial pop culture correspondent.
Thanks.
It's always fun for me to watch these. I think it's a pop culture moment. Like Supriya says, not the hugest fan of football, but there for the halftime show. Mm-hmm. Typically during the Super Bowls, the halftime show has more dedicated tuning.
Sure.
More people are joining to watch the halftime show than anything else. It's always fun for me to watch you watch something like that. You're more enthusiastic. Johnny is he's bouncing in his seat.
He's like, that's my son. That's my little boy over there. It's my little Latin American born in Miami.
Who is the actor? I'm drawing a blank, but the actor you saw in the background, and you were like,
oh yeah,
like it's what's his face?
I'll show some pictures as we start talking about it. But Pedro Pascal was there. Carol G, who is like a huge, probably the biggest Latin female star aside from Shakira. Of course, you had Lady Gaga. We all saw her performance.
She was amazing.
Jessica Alba was hanging out there. We had some other kind of like not really celebrities. There was this Alexis girl who's like a former model, and some of his friends there as well.
It was packed with beautiful people. Is maybe what
Cardi
we're
B
saying
was
here.
there too.
Cardi
I saw
B,
her
yeah,
lurking
Cardi
around in the
B.
background. Yeah.
So it was really cool, and like I said, moments of it as a producer, I can tell where some of it is pre-recorded. They do like a live pre-recording because they obviously go over this a million times before, so they always have a live pre-recording backup in case like everyone's mics fail. Disaster strikes. So there were parts where I could tell like maybe he wasn't harmonizing. That was like a backing track, but for the most part, I mean, you could hear he was rapping and talking over the mic for real, and doing that and dancing is not a small feat. But I think just the feeling of it. I mean, it was nobody came out and said "fuck ICE" or anything like that. It was just like about being together, celebrating Latin America, celebrating Puerto Rico, celebrating the diversity of America. It was pretty freaking good. And Nielsen doesn't have their ratings done totally yet, but they said early on that it looks like over 135 million.
Wow.
Which would make this the most watched ever.
Wild.
And obviously for many reasons.
Try to wrap your mind around 135 million viewers. Bucky follows up, by the way, says, I thought it was a fantastic production. Bad Bunny has massive charisma, says, I hate his music, though. Cherie says, I loved the halftime show, and what a show it was. Visually amazing. The happiness was so apparent. Ms. KD says Bad Bunny was brilliant. Never mind, you couldn't understand the words, maybe the lyrics. The depth of the meaning behind their performance was so great once you understand the meaning behind every single choice. Erica says the entire halftime show from the initial announcement to all those international flags was a massive rage bait troll job against the president, against Donald Trump, and it worked. The president of the United States. And yes, everyone, I have fact-checked this to ensure that it's a real post. That's what you have to do these days with posts coming from Donald Trump. Says the president, the Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense. It's an affront to the greatness of America, doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Trump says nobody understands a word this guy is saying. The dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the United States, Epstein Island, and all over the world. This show is just a slap in the face, says the president, to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day. The best stock market, the best 401ks in history. There is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show. It'll get great reviews from the fake news media, because they haven't got a clue of what's going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Supriya. There you go.
What's the new kickoff rule? I don't think I actually know. What did they do?
I think that's reserved for the sports shows because I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a hot clue. I have no idea. Do you know what the new? No, we don't know what the new kickoff rule is.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Full disclosure, and I have so much fun hosting it on the Rocks, and I really appreciate them giving me that opportunity. Before the game, I did Google the names of the quarterbacks of the two teams. So just so you're aware,
young guys,
both young guys, young fellas, did a real great job there. And congratulations, by the way, to the Seattle Seahawks. But Erica makes a point. It's kind of a fun point, and it also is. I mean, it probably wasn't an accidental choice to have Bad Bunny doing the halftime show and shouting out every Latin American nation on planet Earth.
Sure, but they decided that he was going to do it quite a while ago. I remember when it was first announced and MAGA was initially losing their minds, and me, you, and Johnny were talking about it, and this would have been months and months ago, right? So I think this was, to the commenter that said this was a giant troll job, I think that's sure, fine. I think that's correct, but we also have to, realize that what is considered trolling now is saying that love is better than hate, or love wins out over hate, or is more powerful than hate, and this is considered trolling and a very simplistic message of unity and togetherness, and we're stronger when we're together. If one side takes that to be a dig at them, then I think that says more about what that one side's values are than it is about whatever the troll job was, right? And I mean, what's funny about Trump's post is like this is now 2 Super Bowls in a row that MAGA has kind of lost their minds over it. Like, is like, do you remember their reaction to Kendrick Lamar? And that was just last year. So I feel as though until they have a performer that's of the Kid Rock ilk, they're not going to be happy about whomever is chosen.
Yeah, but they've been kind of mad about the last 4, which it's funny. They've all been people of color, right? Usher, Rihanna, Kendrick Lamar, and of course now Bad Bunny. So yeah.
This is Plain Power makes a nice great point, positive point. Positive Mondays here on Real Talk, presented by Kuby. Says, in a world of us against them, this show is about unity. Is that a bad thing? Says Plain Power, and I agree. By the way, Kyle helping us out says, you guys, the new kickoff rule, it's the landing zone, intended to stop concussions from gunners. So you have 2 receivers in the landing zone. Your blockers and gunners are 10 yards apart, straddling the 35. So there you go.
How about that bobblehead that they put on them now?
Oh, yeah, we were noticing the little kind of concussion helmet thing, the little diaper they put on the helmets. I mean, good. The football's got to figure out the concussion thing. But for a lot of people, Super Bowl is going to be the one football game they're going to watch all year. You're going to see things that you may not have noticed. I thought All In, and I don't know a lot about Bad Bunny. It's one of those, like, for me, when I say, I disclose that I'm 48 years old and then I'm about to sound like 98 years old. But it's one of those ones where he's one of those artists where I hear a song and I'm like, oh, yeah. Or I hear another song, I'm like, oh, that's him. Okay. It was kind of like that. I would say from start to finish, I turned to you at the end of it, and I just was like, that was pure entertainment. It felt a little like, again, who cares? I'm not like dwelling on something. This isn't a criticism, but for a Super Bowl in the Bay Area, like basically in Santa Clara, San Francisco, it sort of felt more like a Miami Super Bowl type halftime show, but also like, who cares? Halftime show can be whatever. I just thought like the amount of planning and thought that went into it, like we're showing a little bit right here, like the visual angle of it, the power of even the set design. I mean, just technically speaking, the fact that they roll this in the middle of a football game and put on like a world-class concert for the people there, and like Johnny said, 135 million people watching around the world, just blows my mind. So I thought All In, even though I'm not a huge fan of the music, I'm not opposing the music. I just thought from an entertainment standpoint, absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, 10 on 10. Did you guys see the part where there was a little boy that Bad Bunny handed a Grammy to within the performance, and like the internet
Right
sort of
there.
exploded over it?
He's referring to the
call it
guy
up right here.
the kid who was grabbed by ICE. I think it wasn't him, but
It wasn't him. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
looks
But
a
yeah,
lot.
they exactly. Yeah, that kid right there. Yeah, that you're showing right now. And so it wasn't him, but the entire internet sort of jumped on him. It's actually just a child actor who was chosen for the role because he resembled a younger Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting that we're all just like, everybody kind of jumped on it because, like, why not?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had this. A real wedding took place. This was real. We're hearing this morning that there was an actual wedding. So a representative of the Puerto Rican musician confirmed after the event that the couple was a part of Bad Bunny's showcase. They truly did get married during the halftime performance.
So cool.
They are friends of his or something. They invited him to their wedding, and then he said, you know what? How about we have your wedding at the Super Bowl? I'm not sure if this was like a retelling of the vows or if this was the actual vows, but this was an actual wedding that happened during the show.
And probably the most beautiful friend group that I've ever seen in my entire life of ordinary average people.
Yeah, no kidding.
Getting married on the 50-yard line during the Super Bowl. Pretty unreal. Don's ripping me in the live chat. He says, not the Grey Cup. I said, for a lot of people, this is going to be the one football game they're going to watch all year. He says, not the Grey Cup. Ryan, are you not Canadian at all? I said, for a lot of people, Don. I didn't say for me. But for a lot of people, this is true. The Super Bowl obviously like elevates above. I mean, it's, arguably the biggest sporting event in the world. And a lot of people would probably think that FIFA World Cup would be up there and maybe surpass it. Obviously, the Olympic Winter Games are happening as we speak, but it's right up there. I just think that, the interesting thing about the halftime show, this doesn't happen every year where people are either seeking meaning or finding meaning on some pretty major, I mean, you're talking about like sort of like the pillars or the foundation, the base of like American society and what it means to be American. And You talk even from the coin flip, and they're like, here, here's the coin here celebrating 1776, and after the coin is used in the coin toss to determine who will kick off, who will receive, then that coin goes straight into, I think they said, the Smithsonian or Museum of Natural History, wherever it is. I mean, like the Super Bowl. I mean, you see the American troops that are all in formation ahead of the, standing in front of those big fighter jets during the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, the whole thing is like sort of insights into where America's at, and obviously a big sort of a national pride, like an American pride type exercise every single year. But it's particularly interesting to me that the halftime show is being seen as like a barometer of where people are at. I mean, to say the least, you don't get that every single year.
No, you don't. But I feel like increasingly, to Johnny's point about that MAGA has been pissed off over the last 4 performers for the halftime show, I feel like increasingly everything ends up being a culture war, which is silly, right? Like you're choosing a performer because they're entertaining, because they're popular, because, presumably there's going to be a large swath of the population that already knows who they are and are looking forward to tuning in to the halftime show because of it. And yet, here we are in terms of trying to find meaning of what was said, the symbolism of certain things, and how that represented a middle finger to Donald Trump's America. And then, of course, he takes the bait and goes on a rage post. I don't know. Do you see this ending? Like, I don't think, like, whoever it is next year, I feel like there's going to be a similar sort of hoopla over it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they just go with a really safe choice next year.
Yeah, I doubt it. Jay-Z seems like he's poking the bear, but I think he's got another 2 years on the contract where he's going to be picking the musical acts. Yeah, Rock Nation. Also wanted to mention the pre-show. We can't forget Green Day got out there saying American Idiot, which of course is like a big F you to USA and the president. And who was on stage while he sang it? Oh my gosh, Ryan. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Joe Montana all joined him on stage for that. So that was kind of crazy. And then before we get out of here, I'll just mention that this is always like a point of contention. People are always like, oh, was it good? Was it bad? Was it pre-recorded? Whatever. Charlie Puth, I think, killed the national anthem.
Yeah, really
Whether
good.
It was pre-recorded or not. Whitney Houston, you can argue, was the greatest ever. That was pre-recorded. He just did really well. It was... when people go off script and kind of do like a different harmony and people don't like it, he kind of did that, but I thought it was great. I thought it was good. I thought he held his own.
The president remains silent about Turning Point USA's. This is, the organization founded by Charlie Kirk. Supriya's already laughing. We should mention it because it's interesting. An alternative, quote, all-American Super Bowl halftime show designed to protest Bad Bunny's official set. Featuring performances from Kid Rock and other country artists Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, Gabby Barrett. On Turning Point USA's YouTube channel did have 6.1 million concurrent viewers, which is not a joke. Stacked up against 135, obviously a bit smaller, but still 6 million. But I thought that it was kind of interesting that the president didn't celebrate the Kid Rock halftime show as opposed to his move of criticizing the Bad Bunny halftime show. If you're Kid Rock, does this break your heart, Supriya? You thought that you and Donald were tight?
I'd imagine it's a bit of a dig. Yeah, it's like he has a he decides to post, and it's only a rage post, not even a shout out within the rage post to suggest that the other halftime show, the alternative halftime show, is much better and much more American or whatever. But like if I'm any one of those performers, but particularly Kid Rock, I think this is a slight. But then again, maybe you're used to that from Trump.
Yeah, alternative halftime shows. I mean, that's a real move.
Yeah, but hey, like you said, 6 million is no joke, and I think they went a little longer than the actual Super Bowl. But when they were head to head, it was about 5, and then after, another million tuned in. So that's a lot of people watching. I did see that, like, some people are saying some of it was manufactured because there was, like, a live chat as well on YouTube and other places. And, like, we have a live chat here with, like, nowhere near that many people. There's not millions of people. And our chat is always, like, every second there's a comment.
Yeah.
And people were screenshotting and showing video of how, like, no comments were coming in, but there was, like, 6 million people watching. But, hey, maybe their hands were under their seat while they were enjoying the show of ball with the ball, the bang, diggy, 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 set the boogie, set up, jump the boogie.
Yeah. Rabies Girl in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says, contrasting the content of lyrics from Bad Bunny to Kid Rock, who sings about underage girls the whole time, the hypocrisy isn't the only disgusting thing about the MAGA meltdown.
Well, it was wild because like there's like a lot of like Christians tuning in and stuff, and I tuned in for like the Lee Bryce and the other, not tuned in, but watched after. And it was a lot of like, my gun, my truck, my whiskey. I was like, I don't know if this is very Christian-like.
Yeah.
But
Walkin' Campbell's cat says, yeah, but Real Talk's got a woke live chat. So I don't know if our whole live chat is woke. But hey, let's turn the United States. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Canada, U.S., different themes on that. Many people are referencing the Weeknd's halftime performance a while back, which was obviously, in my opinion, one of the all-time greats. That great Canadian talent out of Ontario. Your face is you're going behind those eyes. You're going, is he about to try to like segue into Jamil Jivani here?
No, I actually thought you were going to put me on the spot and ask if I remembered the Weeknd's performance, and I absolutely do not whatsoever.
Oh, really?
So I can't even. Yeah.
I think what I remember about the Weeknd's performance, number one, apparently was self-funded. I don't know if I ever fact-checked that, but I heard that he like ponied up like millions of his own money to make it happen in the way that he envisioned it happening. And I also remember kind of the House of Mirrors type set. Do you remember that? They were like moving mirrors, and he was moving through hallways, and the shooting like from a nerdy technical like DOP photography type angle. I was like, this is brilliant what he was doing. Okay, hard swerve. Supriya Dion joining us in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. One of the big stories I don't know if it was one of the big stories in Canada, but it was one of the more intriguing stories last week was Conservative MP Jamil Jivani, a long time, and we'll get you to take us into this. You know more than I do about the dynamic, but a long time good, I think like a college buddy of J.D. Vance, and a relatively new Conservative MP, right? Long-time radio personality and broadcaster, but a first-term MP is Jamil Jivani, and basically takes matters, I guess, into his own hands to a certain degree, announces he's heading down to the United States for meetings with the State Department and White House officials, and he's going to do what he can to help GM employees in his riding and try to get a deal done between Canada and the United States. Like, to state the obvious, he's not a Liberal MP, he's not a cabinet minister, he's not even the shadow minister or the critic for international trade. Your thoughts on the trip and kind of the premise behind it? Where's your head at on it?
So I think like if you look at on the face of it of what he's saying, right? And since then he also has an op-ed out in the National Post that folks should probably check out if they're interested in it. But what he's saying, the core message is basically that like this goes beyond partisanship and that we need a multi-partisan kind of all hands on deck approach to when it comes to dealing with the U.S. Like that's a good message. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that is, by and large, what the vast majority of Canadians are looking to hear from, right? Like from not just, federal leaders, but provincial leaders as well, to think that you're going to put aside your team colors and just all wear red for Team Canada, right? And going forward. But if you look at then you start to, so on the surface, it's fine. Then you sort of dig a little bit deeper and you're like, okay, well, in what capacity are you actually going there as, like, to your point, he's not a critic. He's not going as a representative of the official opposition. He's not going as a representative of the government of Canada. He's going as an individual MP, which again is fine. And, I've seen a lot of like weird conspiracy theories online about being like, well, who paid for this trip? And it's like, well, MPs do get a bit of a travel budget. So like, I'm sure everything was above board there. But I think that the main issue, and that this is an issue that the Conservatives are going to have throughout Donald Trump as president, is that there's one person that's responsible for the cause of all of our trade woes, and that is Donald Trump, right? And you can tiptoe around it and say that both sides need to come to the table. But if one side of that table is making all sorts of ridiculous threats, like, we don't need an auto industry in Canada, or that they're going to, tariff us up the wazoo because we've entered into, we've taken off certain tariffs from Chinese EVs or whatever, and then that sends them into a tizzy, then I think we need some real talk injected into this, because at the end of the day, whatever deal we come to with Trump at the helm, he's already shown us that his signature and his word don't really mean all that much, because Right now, the deal that we have was negotiated by him, right? So the Conservatives are going to have to figure out a way to communicate this where it's clear that they do want to work with the government, because I think that's the right thing to do, but that they're going to have to take a harder line, or at least, a clearer line on President Trump and what the Americans have been doing.
What do you read, if anything, into his announcement that he was headed down to D.C.? Like, we'll show it right now on the screen. It looks like, I'm pretty sure this must be like some sort of campaign signage behind him. Looks like it's signed by, I'm assuming, like his campaign supporters, maybe his volunteers, whoever it is, maybe folks in his riding. But you just see it there, Jamil Jivani. There's no referencing, there's no branding. I mean, even the color scheme on it doesn't even look really dialed into the Conservative Party of Canada's scheme. There's no logos. There's no mention of Pierre Poilievre in the signage anywhere. Are people that would read into this something relating to maybe a lack of confidence in the leader, or maybe eyes on the leadership position, reading too much into it?
No, I don't think so, because that's one of the first things that jumped out at me in that announcement video as well. There's no Conservative branding anywhere, right? To your point, for folks that are listening to this and not watching it, he's got his name behind him on a blue banner, and presumably there's a Conservative Party logo on there somewhere, right? But you don't see it. And then the other thing that you see in that video is a Restore the North cap, right? Which is his own sort of college tour that he's been doing to try and mirror, I guess, Charlie Kirk's thing. But again, that's associated with Jamil's personal brand, not his leader's brand, not the party that he's a part of. And so again, like it seems like he was in it for himself. And if you look at the timing of the trip itself, Pierre Poilievre has a leadership review. The leadership review went very well for Pierre Poilievre, but had it not gone well for Pierre Poilievre, this to me would have been a perfectly timed kind of soft launch for Jamil to put his hat into the ring to at least question current leadership and to suggest that he's up for the gig.
So 80s Fanify in our live chat wonders, do you think Poilievre's fuming over this? Like, do you think Pierre Poilievre's pissed over this? It's a bit of a, like, I don't know. I would be. I would be if I was the leader. Like, I 100% would be. And that's, maybe people might say, well, maybe you're insecure or this, that, the other. But it's like, listen, if this is either a move toward making meaningful progress and a real sort of a, I don't know if I say olive branch, but like an indicator that you're into that idea of like bipartisan efforts and working across the aisle and whatever, then it 100% should be the party leader that's doing it. And if it's like a publicity stunt to get folks' attention and sort of undermine maybe or challenge or spur or inspire liberal efforts, in other words, official government efforts to negotiate with the Americans, then it should also be the party leader. I don't know. I remember when I was just starting my radio career, Supriya, working out of Red Deer, and a friend down in Calgary called me and asked if I would like to do an on-air interview about the Red Deer Rebels, the WHL team there. And I jumped at the opportunity to be on the radio in Red Deer because I was new and I was like at the bottom of the pile. I got no opportunities. And so I did it. And it was super exciting to be on the radio in the 1 million person market of Calgary. And then our sports director, who actually covers the Red Deer Rebels and has Informed Insights, came up to me after the fact and was like, don't you think that I should have probably done that interview? And he made a very compelling point. I had swerved out of my lane in an effort to get my name out there in a bigger market. And ultimately, I had undermined our sports director.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good analogy, because I would say that the other thing is that aside from the leader themselves, right, like whoever the leader would be of a political party, you do have official critic roles, right? And in this case, you would assume it would be the U.S.-Canada trade critic, or perhaps the international trade critic, maybe even the foreign affairs critic that would, presumably be tapped to undergo a trip like this. But yeah, Jamil's none of those things and decided to go anyway. And look, to your point, and you mentioned this at the onset, but like he is very good friends with the vice president, and that's true. That they've been friends for like 15 years now, and certainly that helped open doors. And Jamil mentioned this in his op-ed, that his friendship with the vice president likely opened doors for him to be able to sit down with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He also had a conversation apparently with the president himself. So that's all well and good. And I think, in these situations, if you can lean on personal relationships or relationships that you've made outside of, the professional sphere, like go ahead and do it. But again, the underlying issue right now with the U.S. is that not only are they threatening us with all sorts of, bullshit talks of annexation and 51st state bullshit and referring to now 2 prime ministers in a row as governor, but they're also threatening our businesses and full industries here. And so given the fact that Jamil represents Bowmanville, Oshawa North, where the GM plant is, I would think that he'd be at least a little bit more attuned to that fact. The fact that multiple people within the Trump administration have now said that Canada doesn't need an auto industry and that they don't need any cars to come through here, any auto parts to come through here before they land in the U.S. And that's a direct attack on his constituents. So it seems odd that he would take the tone that he's taking and pretending and running cover for the Trump administration as though that's his job, when his job is to rep his own people. And I don't know if he's doing that.
In our live chat, powered by Park Power, Lightning Smith says Jivani is trying so hard to be relevant. RS says, I'm sure Polyev has his radar up over Jivani. He's actually a bigger problem for him than Mark Carney. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I'll take the point. 54-9Rs, it's a nice handle, says Jivani is trying to position himself for more power, period. Interesting comments here about, does Jivani have an acrimonious history with Doug Ford? Is that
he does.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe there's something there?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was initially appointed as, I forget the exact title now, but it was like community relations advisor or something,
he worked for him.
Yeah, or work for the government rather, like as an outside advisor to provide advice and insights. And then I believe there was the cause of the rupture of the relationship I think was over COVID restrictions at the time, and that caused Jamil to publicly sort of break with the Ford government. And I talked to a lot of conservatives. At the federal level, I think what the kind of concern with somebody like Jamil is that he's not a team player. And that doesn't, and sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not true. But if you're looking at the history here, I mean, to me, it shows that perhaps he's not as comfortable with, the name on the front of the jersey as he is on the name of the back of the jersey, right? He's more concerned about.
Supriya, great sports reference.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
very fun. Garth kicking in 5 bones into our super chat says Jamil going down to the States is simply taking the Trump boogeyman card out of Mark Carney's hand. It's simple. Could that be? Could that be what ultimately unfolds? Like, I went down, I had a productive conversation with the president. I mean, you look at Jivani's update, the one that he posted when he was down there, and his update basically said, like, I just talked, here it is right here, productive meetings today with the White House State Department. The president asked me to pass along a message, which is, I mean, quite a flex, right? The president asked me to pass this along. Quote, tell the Canadians I love them. Says I'll have much more to say later, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, could it work?
I don't know. I guess maybe, but like the problem with trying to take the Trump card out of any play of like, rhetoric leading up to an election or whatever is that you can't really take off the Trump card because Trump is Trump and he's going to pop off whatever tweets or whatever Truth Social post that comes to him whenever the fuck he wants. And it's not going to be based on any conversation or any assurances that he received from a backbench opposition MP with no critic role, right? And so, again, like I can certainly understand the strategic need to try and nip that in the bud when it comes to the possibility of an election, and the Conservatives would certainly certainly not want another election to be fought on the terms of who is the best person or who is the best leader or the best party to deal with Donald Trump as we, renegotiate Kuzma and have to establish, other trading partners around the world. But Trump can ruin all of that by just a tweet or an errant comment or just something that, one of his other underlings decides to say. So I don't know how you can control for that.
We're hanging out with Supriya Dwivedi, presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, first episode of every week. A lot of ground to cover. We're going to take a quick break. I want to talk to you about this. I know we're talking a lot about the States, but it obviously impacts Canadians, impacts the world. We had on the 6th of February, this is our Friday roundtable, an incredible, a really impressive group of Black artists and organizers. The roundtable was planned long before Donald Trump's Truth Social post depicting former President Barack Obama, former First Lady Michelle Obama as primates. I mean, it's like a preposterous, heinous. I'll let you give your take on it in just a second, Supriya, of course. Just a mind-boggling post in 2026 from the President of the United States. It's hard to wrap your mind around. He's since commented on it, said he won't apologize. He's doubling down on it, essentially. I want to get your take on that. Plus, former federal Liberal leader Stephane Dion calling out Alberta's premier over separatism. Chrystia Freeland and Chris Christie hanging out with Bill Maher. Interesting discussion there. Plus an interesting point on the Canada-India file. Supriya's been on that and has a fresh piece out we'll take a look at. All of that to come here on this episode. Friends, I want to make sure that Full House Lottery is on your radar. Before we go any further, you can check out fullhouse.ca, or if you really want to do us a solid, check out the direct link in the show notes on the podcast, YouTube, and in our live chat. This is, of course, this annual opportunity to win big and change lives, supporting the University Hospital Foundation and the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation. 4 grand prizes this year. You can check them out at fullhouse.ca. That includes that legacy signature dream home valued at almost $2.5 million. They've got the Dream Hall package, a brand new Ford F-150 and a Moomba boat, a dream renovation from Legacy Signature Homes, or a dream outdoor oasis package from Green Tree Landscaping. You win any of those, you can also just take the cash equivalents, which is just an amazing incentive. Again, fullhouse.ca is where you can learn more. Don't forget the 50/50 Extra is back. Last year's jackpot was almost $1.7 million, and the loyalty deadline is midnight on February 25th. So make sure you get your tickets now to be entered for all draws, starting with the $104,000 dream salary. I love this. $2,000 a week for a full year. How nice would that be? Again, the Full House Lottery online at fullhouse.ca. A big shout out to our friends at California Closets that were hanging out with us yesterday watching that Super Bowl at OTR. This is a proud Canadian and family-owned company manufacturing everything they install right here in our home province of Alberta. California Closets, nobody does it better than they do, with custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home, whether it's a Murphy bed in your home office doubling as a guest room, maybe a garage storage system, or that dream walk-in closet you've always wanted. You have it pinned on your Pinterest. This is the year you're going to do something about it. Request your free consultation to check in with the California Closets designer. Talk design, talk budget, talk timeline today at californiaclosets.ca. Athabasca University, if you can wrap your mind around this, friends, more than 500,000 alumni from Canada's open university across 100 different countries. That's just a testament to the barriers that have been removed with Athabasca's online platform. Regardless of what's standing in the way of you and your post-secondary journey, you're bound to find a fit with Athabasca U. If it's finances, they have student supports. If it's geography, your only commute is to your device. And if it's time, well, you're the one dictating the course of your program. You want to speed ahead? You need to slow it down? No problem. That's all part of the AU Advantage. You can find more details at athabascau.ca. And Johnny, we felt the pain. I think it was Brian at OTR yesterday was clinging to his $5 bet all the way into the third quarter that there would be no touchdowns scored in the game. Ultimately, when the Patriots put one in the end zone, Brian was lamenting it, but letting us know how much he's enjoying using that Play Alberta app. He says one of the things he loved about it, casino, sports, and lottery, all in one app. You can learn more at playalberta.ca or check out their app. You know, every single hour there's a major casino winner, and all the revenue stays right here in the province of Alberta. Of course, if you do gamble, please use your game sense, and obviously, You got to be 18 or over to play. Well, a fantastic Real Talk Roundtable celebrating Black History Month, specifically the perspective of artists and creators. In our most recent episode, that was the 6th of February. We encourage you to check it out. Supriya, we didn't expect to be talking about Donald Trump or racist social media posts with this roundtable. I let our guests know during and after how much we appreciated them taking questions on it. I think you could tell from their faces, from their body language, it was discouraging subject matter, but one that we thought was pretty important to post after like a midnight, late night Truth Social post from Donald Trump, claiming now, by the way, that it was a video that he had provided to a staffer. The staffer posted it. People are wondering about the fallout here. What's the president going to say? Depicting a Black former president as a primate, about as egregious as it gets. Donald Trump speaking to reporters after the fact. And here's what the president of the United States had to say about it all.
So, do you have any questions, John?
Mr. President, social media post that you took down earlier today, the White House says that a staffer sent it. Who sent it, and are you going to fire them?
No, I looked at it. I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud, and I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud in and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, and they posted, and we took it down, and we turned it, But that was a voter fraud that nobody talks about. They don't like to talk about that post. We took it down as soon as we found out about it.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things, and I looked at the beginning of it. It was fine. And they had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered. If you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff on The Lion King, and certainly it was a very strong post in terms of voter fraud. Nobody knew that was at the end. If they would have looked, they would have seen it, and probably they would have had the sense to take it down. But that was a takeoff on The Lion King, and a lot of people were covered on in different positions. So, but I spoke to Tim Scott. He was great. Tim is a great guy. He understood that 100%.
So, a couple of different things going on there in the president's answer. Thoughts?
I don't even know what to say anymore, aside from the fact that every single person in 2016 and in the lead up to 2016 that tried to tell us that, Trump wasn't actually racist and he was just, concerned about economic uncertainty, and the folks that voted for him weren't, motivated by any racial animus or whatever. I think that they all deserve to walk into the sea and never comment on politics or, our political moment again, because they missed it. I mean, he's been racist for as long as he's sort of been in public life, political life, certainly. And I don't know why the media in the U.S. for, as they go through great pains not to call this out for exactly what it is. And I think it was at least, somewhat interesting that this was the first time that they didn't try and code the language with regards to the post. Like, the post was, definitively described as being racist and not just having racial undertones or making a pointed comment about race. So I don't know, this guy, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, and until there are enough folks from within the party that are going to actually try and limit him or trying to tell him what he's doing is not right, we're not going to get anywhere. And what I find interesting is that again, his own explanation kind of evolved within that comment, right?
Yeah.
It was at first he didn't make it. It was a staffer, and that he didn't even watch the post, but that it was a play on the Lion King. But like, there are no gorillas in the Lion King, so like the whole thing is just dumb.
And it's about voter fraud, but nobody wants to talk about that. And there's a real problem with the machines, and then I think that people even looking, and we could be guilty of this too, looking at that and going, oh, he's trying to like spin this racist video, this egregious video as like a comment on voter fraud, and nobody's actually saying, hang on a second, like the president is continuing to hammer down on the fact that he doesn't trust the American elections and he doesn't trust the machines, and there's still a big thing about voter fraud that he happened to be like, that's a whole other angle on this too.
It is. And look, I think we need to be honest right now. And I've been saying this for quite some time, but we need to be ready for the possibility that the U.S. doesn't have proper midterm elections, right? This year. Like, I think there's very good reason to be worried. And I would, and I've been one of these people that has been worried about this for some time. And I think it was very right for people to have called me paranoid when I was making this comment, like, 10 months ago, a year ago, whatever. Now, increasingly from rhetoric, not just from the president himself, but from those around him, we need to be questioning if they're going to have full, free and fair elections. We've mentioned this before, but, if he's alive to do it, come 2028 and trying to run again, like the White House is selling Trump 2028 merch. Like, he's telling us what he's going to do. And so we can't be surprised by it, and we need to be prepared for it.
Did you hear this? Gavin Newsom, Johnny, I'm going to load this up on my screen so we can play it here. But Gavin Newsom kind of called out everybody, including the media, sort of. I don't know. I thought this was powerful, just in commentary around the whole thing. I don't know. I think it's worth entering into the conversation. So here's California's Governor Gavin Newsom.
Give me a break. It's 1930s all over again. How is this not? Every night you should be running reports on this. The music in the recruitment ads, HH in their ads, all the propaganda coming from Kristi Noem's DHS, how they're recruiting folks. Look at the way this is serious. That's Greg Bovino leading the charge. Even Donald Trump said, maybe this is too much. But he didn't fire him. He just sent him back to where he came from. So yes, I'm concerned. You think he's reformed or changed?
That was Gavin Newsom, and bigger commentary around the likelihood of midterms. Basically, everybody needs to wake up. Saying it's the 1930s again, for a lot of people, and he kind of makes his argument and makes those compelling points, a lot of people are going to shrug that off, right? A lot of people are going to go, are you serious? Like, are you really comparing Trump to Hitler? Like, who's Neville Chamberlain? Who's going to be the Churchill? Where people, I don't want to start speaking candidly and cynically and sarcastically about the Holocaust, but do you think that the average person is going to connect with a message like that, the 1930s all over again? Because that's a hell of a thing for a prominent politician to be saying, maybe the next Democratic nominee for president.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the parallels are certainly there. I don't think any politician, makes that comparison lightly or does it off like flippantly off the top of their head, right? I think there's likely some thought that went into that, and I think we should be calling it for what it is. But can I just say the one thing that annoys me about guys like Gavin Newsom is that their fire is often directed outward and not inward at their own party at the federal level. So like, when Gavin Newsom was in Davos, he was handing out knee pads, right? He's like, oh, this is for all the CEOs and the media that just like and the European leaders that don't stand up to Trump. It's like, well, fuck, tell Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to do something. Tell your own team to do something, right? Like to the point that he made about he just sent Greg Bovino somewhere else, and even Trump was like, oh, maybe this is too much. Well, they haven't actually ramped anything down in Minneapolis. So I don't know, like I understand that was initially the sort of thought that with Greg Bovino being pulled back, that perhaps ICE operations were going to decrease. That's not happening. So again, like if Gavin Newsom really wants to ruffle some feathers and he really wants to have folks stand up to Trump, he's got to start with his own party, because they're just not doing it. They're not meeting the moment. And quite frankly, if you are a progressive or a lefty voter in the U.S., I don't know why you would have any faith in the Democrats to sort of be able to rein in what's happening right now.
If we bring our conversation back north of the border, pretty interesting development is former federal Liberal leader, Cabinet Minister Stephane Dion. You had to know that we were going to talk about this. Talking to Rosemary Barton.
Good.
Yeah, kind of calling out Alberta's premier, not kind of calling her out. Danielle Smith says, quote, Smith needs to be clear. Is she indifferent about the fact that Alberta is in Canada or not? Does she care? And if she cares, she should say so. What do you make of Dion calling out Alberta's premier by name?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think he's good that he's calling her out because, look, I think she absolutely needs to be way clearer on where she stands, as well as, not just her front bench, but her caucus just generally. Like, this isn't hard, right? Either you believe in a united Canada or you do not believe in a united Canada. And if you believe in a united Canada and you would like for the country to remain as one, then you should be able to voice that opinion. What I think is interesting, though, and this is me stirring the pot, is that if I was you, okay, or if I was an Albertan, it would actually annoy the crap out of me to hear from Quebecers on this issue, on the separatist issue, because I would be like, well, fix your own fucking backyard before coming to lecture us about this. So I'm curious what your reaction as a good old Albertan boy to hearing a Stephane Dion call out your premier.
I guess, well, I'm going to open with something that's not very gracious. And that is and this is just my personal perspective, that I've never really taken Stephane Dion seriously at all. And not to suggest that he hasn't had an accomplished career, or whatever. But I always just sort of saw him as like, mid, as like, all right. It gets a bit of a twerp, to be honest with you, to cut to the chase. I'm not trying to sound like a prick, but like it just kind of whatever. I mean, that like it's like, oh, Stephane Dion called out our premier. It doesn't really bother me. I think bigger picture, though, what's interesting is like the Alberta Quebec comparisons. Like there is so much animosity toward Quebec in Alberta, like it's palpable. Because Quebec gets many Albertans don't understand equalization, and we're kind of trying to make it our mission to. I don't think that I'm smarter than people, but I do think that people could take a few minutes and understand how equalization works. But there's a lot of Albertans that think that Alberta writes just a big check to Quebec every single year. And on top of our income taxes, we also send Quebec $20 billion. So there's like just this animosity. Albertans don't like, and when I say Albertans, there's some Albertans, don't like the fact that Quebec kind of gets its special privileges and gets treated differently. And, Albertans, I think, fail to acknowledge that Quebec is, and you know way more about this than I do, but Quebec is a dynamic political jurisdiction that can swing its support federally between conservatives and liberals, and it can swing its support provincially, and the sort of separatist or sovereignty movement kind of seems to ebb and flow and flare up and then simmer down in Quebec. And, Alberta doesn't have that same power. I mean, Albertans just vote the same way federally every single election and aren't treated particularly well by liberal and conservative federal governments. Alberta doesn't really get, listen, I'm also not going to sit and bitch about it. I was going to say Alberta doesn't really get any special favors. Did I tell you about my beer that I had with Arno Kopetsky over the holidays? So Arno's like, a progressive journalist. He'd say left winger, whatever. He's just a wonderful dude, and he was out covering Conservative convention in Calgary, but they wouldn't give him accreditation, so he's covering it from outside and covering it from the pubs and bars and doing his best. But we're having a beer, and he was like, "Can you try?" And he's a born and raised Edmonton guy living in Vancouver now, and he's like, "Can you help me understand what it is with Albertans that are so upset?" And I do think it's a nuanced conversation, but he was like, they're so upset, and like just the federal government's been trying to kill their industry and kill their economy and just stifle. And he's like, and they're also like some of the wealthiest Canadians going, like some of the most it's like one of the most prosperous regions of the country. And it's, he's trying to wrap his mind around that. I think maybe on behalf of Canadians that are watching from elsewhere going like, what is Alberta so upset about? So does Alberta get special favors? I guess we'll see what happens with it. And it's not a special favor, but with a new pipeline, is this federal government going to work with Alberta, but there's always kind of been this sense that like Alberta is overlooked, Alberta is suppressed, and Quebec is just elevated. Quebec is just, it's almost like the older brother has found favor with the parents or something like that. It's like a birthright kind of a thing. I mean, this goes back to like Old Testament feuds between brothers. One ends up killing the other to have favor with the father kind of idea. So I don't know. On the Danielle Smith front, this is like a 45-minute answer to a question you asked me. On the Danielle Smith front, I mean, she sat in this studio, when was it? I think the 9th of December, and we asked her point blank, point blank, like, where do you stand? Do you believe, I read Thomas Lukaszik's question to her, right? Like, whatever it is, I don't remember word for words, do you believe that Alberta should remain in Canada? And she was like, yes, and I've been clear. So I don't know what else, she can say. I think also people believe that talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. And she's, had the support of Alberta separatists. That's obvious. She's made it easier for the petition to pass for Alberta separatists. That's undeniable. So she has kind of, I think in plain language, made a bed that she's got to lay in right now. And she's going to have to figure it out because you've got, on the separatist side of this, these organizers and these kind of the power players within that, I don't want to say fringe, it's more than fringe, but like the real socially conservative, right-wing, take back Alberta, David Parker type people, they can organize well and they can get you to the position of winning leadership and help you win elections. But they will also eat their own without a second of hesitation. And I've heard some really interesting stuff around the source of some of the leaks around the healthcare procurement controversy and all and I just think the premier behind the scenes and probably to a certain degree very publicly has a huge problem on her hands. And I wonder how she'll navigate that. Jeff Rath running his mouth, giving interviews, talking about how he's heard, or it's rumored, or he found out that Danielle Smith was asked if Alberta did separate, would she still continue to be the leader, and apparently he claims, I don't know that this guy's trustworthy one bit, but he claims that she was deciding whether, she says, I don't really like to be called president. I guess you would call me prime minister. If that's true, and if she's talking like that, then obviously this gets even worse for her. But there's a conundrum right now. I think probably the best thing for Danielle Smith, she gives the separatists what they want with the referendum. Hopefully for her and hopefully for the rest of the country, including Alberta. Hopefully the separatist movement is stomped out, 20%, 22%, whatever it is. I'd love to see sub 20. And then we can kind of move on from there.
Is it right? What is it at right now? It's not sub 20 though. It's closer to 30, isn't it?
Well, but there's not like a real, there's just a lot of, and I try to not be guilty of this because there's a lot of speculation, right? Like there's a lot of people, you can see the odd poll. But like a lot of people are just throwing out numbers, right? A guy came out to me the other day in an elevator of all things. I'm with my 3-year-old. I wasn't particularly interested in getting into it. He's like, I've heard that, it's getting closer to 40%, right? And I'm like, where'd you hear that? Oh, I heard it's closer to 40. Well, okay. Come on, right? So I don't know, but there's only one, and we've had people like, really making passionate pleas to steer clear of a referendum. Because of, what it did to Quebec and because of the obvious, Shauna Fethson, CEO of Alberta Chambers of Commerce, says to us that their member businesses are already seeing impacts just from rumors around a referendum and that it, halts investment and corporate headquarters are going to relocate and yada, yada, yada. But also I think on the pro side in arguing for a referendum, at least you can get it out there and get it done.
Sure. Yeah. The other thing I would add, just, I know she was representing the chamber, so her concern is businesses, but it's also going to plummet house prices, right? Like if folks are thinking, this was a known thing in the 90s in Quebec that, if you're there was a lot of Anglo flight from the 1995 referendum. And it's like, okay, so if you wanted a house in Westmount or one of the nicer areas in Montreal, it was very easy to do so in and around that time. So yeah, look, I think I agree with your assessment. I think the conundrum is real. To your point about what would Stephane Dion like to hear from her, I think what the press, the preceding issue that led him to sort of jump into the fray on this issue was her refusal I guess, use stronger language with respect to the separation movement or the separatists, right? Because I think that Premier David Eby in British Columbia had referred to them as engaging in treason or treasonous behavior, and Smith refused to do so.
Yeah.
I don't like throwing the word treason around either, because I think it has a very specific legal meaning. But in the context of like you're working against your country in the general broad definition, sure, fine.
Well, here's my thing too, and we had Raheem Mohammed on from National Post a while ago because it was on Boxing Day. I couldn't help myself. On Boxing Day, I just saw the Jeff Rath. He posted his interview and talking about how he's down there negotiating with State Department officials, this, that, on behalf of Alberta and blah, 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 blah. And it really ticks me off because they start talking about how the Americans are saying that a sovereign Alberta would have like a $500 billion sort of a transition, like a slush fund. They're making these wild promises. Like, keep in mind, again, I'm not saying this to you know this, but to our listeners, like, this is not even a real political party. This guy is not the elected leader of a political party. They have no representation in the legislature. He's talking out of his ass is basically what I'm saying. But he's telling people like there will be no income tax in a sovereign Alberta. Like, it's one of these kind of land of milk and honey type scenarios, right? And so, I don't want to say gullible people, but gullible people are going to believe that kind of thing and automatically blindly support it. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a real mess. And so that's why I feel kind of very passionate about it. But I don't know. I mean, it's just it's the type of thing that it's I don't know. Have you ever walk past somebody in the street and there's like a big lump on the side of their neck and you're like, we're gonna have to do something about that at some point. That's what it feels like. We gonna get this biopsied? Like, are we gonna go see a doctor? We gonna book in a surgery? Like, are we just gonna keep walking around with this lump on the side of the neck? Like, Alberta's got to deal with this one way or another.
Check out that goiter. Yeah, I guess.
It's the Alberta goiter.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, and this isn't me defending the separatist movement, this is certainly not me sticking up for Mr. Rath, but the one thing I will say with respect to him and, the folks around him not having the authority to conduct these meetings or these negotiations, whatever, like, I obviously agree with that. That is quite true, right? But they are having these meetings, and that is in and of itself worrying, the fact that the State Department would sit down and meet with them. And I know that the official line from the State Department was, though, we meet with civil society types all the time. But then, according to Mr. Rath, one of the meetings was in a skiff, which is like a secure, compartmentalized facility where there's no electronics and it's secure for information to be delivered. Like, I've been in a skiff a bunch of times. You only do it when you're getting a classified briefing for the most part, right? Or you're getting information that other people should not have. So we should all be very curious as to why those meetings were held in a skiff. I think the reasoning that Rath had given after the fact was like, oh, it was just the only room available, which is like the most bullshit answer that can possibly be given on that question. So we should all be very concerned with how the U.S. is going to then use the Alberta separation movement to foment their own kind of psyop or foreign interference into our own democracy, given that, they have been clear about wanting to make us a 51st state, and they have been clear about wanting to ruin us economically.
Yeah. I want to get to, there's a couple comments here in the live chat I think are worth touching on. Whitrim says Alberta has extreme middle child syndrome. Whitrim also goes on to say, and I'd be happy to address this head on, says, well, that's part of Ryan's ignorance, believing anything that the premier says on his show. It is all an act. It's not my ignorance, but I want people to put themselves in the shoes of an interviewer. Like, when you ask a politician or anybody something point blank and they give you an answer, and then you, if appropriate, circle back, seek clarification that you didn't get, or challenge an assertion that was made, and then they answer, like, at what point, I understand interviewers can say things like, I'm not so sure I believe you, or I'm not sure you're telling the truth, or it seems to me, or your critics think that you're saying one thing and doing another, or that you say one thing but believe another. And if people go back in our interviews, and I don't love like sitting here and like defending our interviews, But if you go to the beginning of the interview on December 9th, basically it starts off, not verbatim, but I'm like, how are things going? And she basically says, great. I think everybody's happy. And I say, well, I think that depends on who you talk to. Like that was the tone, the starting point of the interview. I guess all I'm saying is for folks like Whitrim to think, oh, I'm just sitting here lapping up what the premier says. You can only ask somebody the same question so many times. And if she goes on the record and gives her answer and says, yes, I do believe that Alberta should remain in Canada. And then what am I going to... Bullshit. And then what? Yeah. And then what, right? So I guess my point is like whether she's telling the truth or lying, she has done what Stephane Dion wants her to do, which is to state whether or not she believes Alberta should stay in Canada. She says that she does believe that Alberta should stay in Canada. Now, does she believe that in her heart, or is she posturing in case Alberta separates, or does she find herself in the conundrum that we have detailed, which is supported by separatists, but understanding that she'll lose a general election in Alberta if she hitches her wagon to them the entire time? The answer is probably yes.
Make her take a poly. That's what's the only way.
That would be like we could sponsor that 100%. Get somebody and like just get we get Mark Carney on here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, politicians on the poly. There you go.
Politicians. Presented by, I don't know who the appropriate sponsor would be.
We'll figure it out. We'll brainstorm after the show.
It would have to be like brown envelope type stuff where you'd have to make a contribution to the politician's campaign of like $100,000 because what politician in their right mind would ever submit to a polygraph on a live talk show? It just wouldn't happen.
I think the donation limit's like $2,500, but
no, I know, but that's why it's in the brown envelope.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
The only limit with brown envelope donations is how
big the envelope is.
How big the envelope is. You know what I'm saying? Hey, do you have a couple more minutes? Can we keep you? I want to get to a couple things.
Yeah, sure.
Do you promise? Do you have a meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just my kid's gonna be home in like 10 minutes for lunch.
Real quick. 10 minutes is no problem. We got Chris Christie and Chrystia Freeland, and then we also got to talk India. But I thought this was kind of interesting, right? You got former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. You got former Deputy PM Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland talking to Bill Maher, about Canada and what Republicans think about Canada. And I just thought it was an interesting insight. Wanted to get your take on it. Here they are on Bill Maher.
So I want to know, what do Republicans say to each other when we're not listening about what's happening in America right now?
Look, so many of my fellow party members, especially come up to me because I say all this stuff out loud, and they in the green room at ABC, they say, "You're so brave. That's so great. I totally agree with you. He's nuts." And then they go out on camera to be interviewed. They are the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. And then they come back in the green room and they say to me, I have to do that, but I don't really mean it. That's what they say.
Like who specifically?
All right, Bill. Overtime's not long enough to give you all the names, but I'll give you one. Lindsey Graham. Which, by the way, was what he was saying when he was running for president in 2016. But I guess if you get invited to play golf, then off you go.
Well, knock me over with a feathered boa that I'm wearing with a silk robe.
So there they are. Your thoughts?
I mean, we knew that, though, didn't we? I guess for the most part. Like, maybe not the specifics about Lindsey Graham, although he does have a tweet that gets resurrected every now and again, which is something along the lines of, like, if we elect Donald Trump, we'll deserve everything we get going forward. But, like, you have to imagine if you can have if you're just somewhat, I wouldn't even say, like, good politically minded or having a shrewd political mind, but if you're just like a normal person, I don't think you can look at what Trump has done with respect to defying all sorts of democratic and political norms and the kinds of rhetoric that he chooses to engage in. I don't think you look at that and go, yeah, I'm really proud of that, as somebody who has worked in politics for a good chunk of your life. So I don't think that's surprising, but I think we should all kind of call out the people who refuse to do the calling out and just go along to get along. Because, I mean, we were talking about making 1930s comparisons earlier, but I mean, that's exactly how really bad things tend to happen, right? Is when enough good people don't feel like that they can speak up. And I'm not necessarily calling Lindsey Graham a good person, but if he believes in these things that the president is, kind of out there and nutty and whatever, then fucking say it and stop being a coward.
Shout out to RH in our super chat, $50 toward the show. We sure appreciate that. Says, it strikes me that since the American election 2024, Canada has seen an upsurge of separatism and white nationalism. Confederates are feeling empowered. Says the federal government response is lame. Perhaps it's time for Canadian Jayhawkers to make an appearance. The Jayhawker reference, like sort of militant anti-slavery, kind of these guerrilla bands, right? The Kansas Jayhawks, like kind of a cool reference there. Appreciate, RH, your continued support of the show. Supriya, back in, I think it was when we talked, it would have been like the end of October, maybe into the very beginning of November, referencing this piece that you did for Canada's National Observer, published the 23rd of October, nationalobserver.com, Carney's capitulation to Modi, embarrassing. Well, there's an update here on this story as Canada's Public Safety Minister, Gary Anandasangri, has met, as well as Canada's Deputy Clerk, National Security Advisors to the Prime Minister, etc., with India's National Security Advisor during a visit to Canada. This is just a couple of days ago, and we wanted to make sure we circled back with you on it.
Yeah, so there's a readout that you just, put up on the screen there of the meeting. And in that readout, there's nothing to suggest that either party brought up the issue of transnational repression or foreign interference. And I think, again, we need to be very mindful of the fact that the public inquiry into foreign interference found that India was the number 2 foreign interferer into Canada's domestic affairs, behind only China. And then, of course, the transnational repression piece, or the allegations that have been, made by our law enforcement, national security, like the RCMP, that agents of the government of India have been involved with criminal networks here in Canada to conduct all sorts of crimes against members of the Indian diaspora, but specifically Sikh Canadians. We've talked about the murder of Mr. Najjar, which was a part of the allegations that then Prime Minister Trudeau would have made on the House of Commons. But I mean, since then, the RCMP have confirmed that there's clear and compelling evidence that there are allegations to suggest that the Indian government has been involved in transnational repression. So I don't know why we keep doing this thing. And again, this isn't just about Canada, because we're not the only country who's made allegations against India for using Indian government agents to carry out these extraterritorial hit jobs. We have an unsealed indictment from the U.S. wherein it's alleged that a former senior field officer from India's Research and Analysis Wing, commonly referred to by its acronym RAW, which is basically, the Indian version of the CIA, tried to orchestrate an assassination of a prominent Sikh activist in the United States who is also a U.S. citizen. So the way that the Carney government has been dealing with India, I think should worry Canadians. And I'm not discounting the fact that we need to shore up different trading partners. And I'm not discounting the fact that there needed to have been a bit of a reset, if you will, in the relationship. I agree with all of that. But the message that the Carney government is sending to members of the Indian diaspora right now, and here, really especially Sikh Canadians, right, who are critical of the Modi government, is that trade right now is more important than their lives, and that not all Canadian lives are equal. And I think that should worry every single one of us.
We love checking in with you, Supriya. Appreciate your takes. Lots of love for you in the live chat, and we'll look forward to talking to you again. It won't be next Monday. Ontario aligned with Alberta. Is it same schedule for Family Day?
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool. So enjoy your time with your fam, your beautiful girl, and we will talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Ryan. Talk soon.
All right, you got it. That's Supriya Dwivedi, first episode of every week, courtesy of our friends at Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Aaron in our live chat says there's a great story recently on CBC about the modern day version of the Black Panthers, says now called the Black Lion Party for International Solidarity. She says interesting stuff. Wonder if that's a reference to what RS popped into the chat earlier. Miss Katie says, Jespo. Supriya says she has to go, and then you bring up Modi. Hey, she gave me the 10-minute window, and I'm going to use like 9:59. I'm going to use as much as I can, but Supriya's like, you got to keep in mind, guys, obviously she's hilarious and we have a good rapport. We've worked together for a long time. There's kind of that mutual admiration society thing happening, but also, just on the brass tacks side, Supriya, former senior advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada, like her perspective on a lot of things, it's lived experience. She's walked miles in the boots. She can comment from a position of authority and real understanding, professional expertise, as opposed to just speculation, which is a lot of what the rest of us bring to the table, respectfully. So we sure appreciate her take on that. We've also got a great email here from Ryan talking about the Winter Olympic Games. I don't know if you caught any over the weekend, obviously in full swing. A big moment for any athlete. And of course, it sort of feels like a lot of the sports fans come out of the woodwork. I was more interested over the weekend, for example, in luge than I have been in a long time. But Ryan's got a great take specifically about Canada hosting future games. Before we get there, I want to remind you that February is Heart Month, and our friends at the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation are asking you to support the CK Hui Heart Center through the month of February and, of course, through the year. If you check out royalalex.org, or you can go directly to giveto.ckhui.org, that's HUI, you're going to be able to read how far cardiac care has come. Some really amazing features on families that have benefited, patients there of all ages, including in utero. By the way, at the Royal Alexandra CK Hui Heart Center, teams are delivering care that is minimally invasive and maximally effective, which helps patients recover faster with less trauma and, of course, better outcomes, which is a big deal. So from advanced imaging and early diagnosis to complex procedures that are being done without open heart surgery, which is huge. This is cardiac care designed around the patient. And right now, your support of the CK Hui Heart Center can go 3 times as far. For a limited time, every gift to cardiac care at the Royal Alex is going to be tripled thanks to donation matching, which is going to help reach more patients sooner. So this Heart Month, don't miss the chance to make your impact count. Check out royalalex.org or give to CKHui.org. Our friends at Friesen Brothers are very proud to be supporting Heart Month through the month of February. They're, as a matter of fact, the presenting partner of the UHF's Heart Month. You can donate $1 at the till at all Friesen Brothers locations and share your wish for the heart in support of the Mazankowski Alberta Heart Institute. You can find out more at friesen.com/Heart Month. A reminder that a couple of things coming up on the calendar at Friesen Brothers, including Valentine's Day and all-you-can-eat Italian feast, which is perfect for families. Those are at all Friesen Brothers Fresh Market stores, and High Prairie and Barhead for the first time. Shout out to our friends in Barhead. Also a Family Day all-you-can-eat brunch, Monday, February 16th from 8 to 4 at all Friesen Brothers Fresh Market stores and High Prairie. You can find out all the details at friesen.com. Our friends at UCAN Youth Services reminding you that soon their UCAN Comedy Nights are going to sell out. That's a fact. 6 nights of comedy at Rick Bronson's comic strip in support of UCAN Youth Services. We can't wait to get out there ourselves. We get a full table. We invite our friends, have some laughs, all for a great cause. March 9th through the 11th, March 16th through the 18th. If you've been lamenting the fact that you haven't got together with your good friends, sounds like a great date night opportunity to me as well, like a nice big group date, maybe get 10 people around a table. This is your sign. Go to ucan.ca or ucancomedy.com to get your tickets for UCAN Comedy Nights. And our friends at North Road Investment Council, Johnny, I love that, showing us some photos. You know what that is, as a matter of fact? UCAN's opening up all of their new, they got like their training centers for these ready-to-work programs. So they're putting these young people into these amazing positions. Don't get me wrong, the young people are kicking down the doors themselves. They're creating their own opportunities, but leveling up their workplace skills, their safety training, all that kind of stuff so they can enter the workforce and really start to create economic opportunities for themselves. We're seeing updates, including those photos Johnny just showed you, as UCAN has officially moved into their new location. We're doing everything we can to help them meet their capital project goal this year. They got to raise about $2 million, so we're going to help them get there, Real Talkers. Again, that's ucan.ca. North Road Investment Council online all the time at northroadic.com. You know, they're working with established professionals, business owners all the time that are making big decisions. You know, how are you paying yourself, right? Dividends or salary? Should you divert your savings into a TFSA or an RRSP or maybe leave your savings within the corporation for your eventual retirement? Like, these decisions matter, obviously, and that's why North Road is here at northroadic.com. If your business is in a healthy position, if you're earning $200,000 or more annually over the age of 40, you should definitely be looking at an individual pension plan, an IPP. A powerful retirement strategy can provide higher tax-deferred savings over RRSPs, but it's not for everybody. The team at North Road has a really clear, a plain language white paper on the IPP. You can request that today by reaching out to them, Marshall, Carey, and their team at northroadic.com. Did you catch any Olympics over the weekend? Did you like plop yourself in front of the TV and just kind of check out what was going on?
Yeah, I watched some of it.
Was it like appointment tuning? You tuned in to watch curling, or you just turn it on and see what's going?
No, I just kind of checked in every now and then. I saw, we got 2 bronze medals. I think we got one in freestyle skiing,
and speed skating.
Speed skating.
Yeah. I was we're talking to my boys, age 3 and 10, about speed skaters, and they're just fascinated by the length of the blades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Wyatt plays hockey, and he was sort of speculating how he might do out there on his hockey skates with these speed skaters. And I was trying to tell him, I said, I don't know, like when it comes to pictures of endurance, I know that cyclists oftentimes are celebrated for their endurance, obviously triathletes and that sort of a thing. But I think those longer distance speed skaters, those legs, like the power that they bring to the table, just wild. Can't even imagine the cardiovascular training, amazing speed skating. I am cheering for every single Canadian out there 100%. I will admit and acknowledge I was also rooting for Lindsey Vonn, skiing on just a destroyed ACL, 41 years old, coming out of retirement, 6 years of retirement, coming back to Cortina where I think she has the most World Cup wins. It's just something like 12 World Cup wins, specifically there in the Dolomites. And everybody that watches knows, sort of 10 seconds into her run, hits a gate, goes flying, medevaced out on a chopper for the second time in 9 days and fracturing her leg, probably the end of her skiing career. But that was kind of an interesting storyline over the weekend. And then, of course, great to see women's hockey underway and men's hockey kind of on the precipice, about to launch later this week. So lots going on.
Yeah, I can't wait for men's hockey. Women's hockey, insane. Like, I don't know if you saw the Japan.
You were talking to me about it yesterday. It's amazing to see.
Like, Japan was laughed at last Olympics, and now they're actual contenders.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see countries that weren't necessarily into winter sports, weren't into hockey. Like, hockey is everywhere around the world now, and it's a little scary because, it used to be Canada, USA, who's going to win every year, but it just makes it better. You can watch every game now, and every game is competitive. Every country that's in there is giving it their all, and they're competing, and I think it's going to be absolutely insane, obviously, because we've now got the pros back. We've literally got best on best for the men's, especially this year. But watching M. Mashmeyer and Nurse and all these fine young women just doing amazing out there, and just I want to go there just to TikTok. That looks like the funnest part that they're having is just having fun on social media, being a part of the whole event. I mean, you kind of have to document it because it's a once in a lifetime experience, right? Yeah. Some people get to go twice or 3 times or whatever, but being there is just an experience, and just seeing the whole thing is amazing. And we'll have to see. It's all going to get crazy this Thursday when the men's hockey heats up, because obviously, I mean, ski jumping, all these incredible things, speed skating, but when the hockey gets going down, especially between USA and Canada, which oddly enough, they don't play each other at all.
Yeah.
So,
not until
but we're waiting for that 4 Nations revenge rematch, right?
Rematch. Yeah, totally. Scarlett, by the way, says for speed skating, you use totally different muscles in your legs. Says she did 1 loop at Victoria Skating Oval during their open house, and she said, I could barely walk for a week.
Well, there's a reason their thighs are it is it is grueling work. You're not out there just like flying. You know?
Yeah, and we were watching, and they showed the slow-mo, and I was saying to Wyatt, I was like, look at their heads, like look at their eyes. Like I was like, they're stoic. They're just focused. Like there's not a lot of waving. Anyway, I digress. We were having a blast watching, and I just love. There's something special too about watching Olympics with a little kid, right? They're just like wide-eyed, and I think there's going to be something special watching players like you've got these like multi-millionaire athletes coming into the Olympic Games. It's always interesting. Same deal with, like the American men's basketball team or something like that, where you have, athletes coming in, many of them already exceeding like 100 million or 150 million in career earnings individually. Staying alongside and I'm sure partying with, socializing with, making friendships with athletes that are, really like thanks to corporate support, able to be professional athletes, but not exactly getting rich. But in the Olympic Village, it all comes together. But it's going to be neat to see athletes like, on the Canadian side of things, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, like these athletes. Connor McDavid, I think he's 28, I think. He's never played in Olympic Games, right? Like, so that's going to be a special experience for him.
Sure. I'll have to do a little research, but I'm wondering if they're bunking together, because like definitely the women's team I've seen their social media posts. You've got the best women's athletes for hockey in Canada and the United States staying 2 to a room with little single beds that they get, their little cubby hole.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if are Connor and Cale in a room together? I doubt it. I would guess they're staying at like a better hotel, or maybe they're.
I don't know.
I haven't seen. I've been looking everywhere for like the men's hockey team, like to see their quarters and stuff, and nobody's posted. And it's like you said, do millionaires stay in these Olympic Village two-to-a-room places?
Kyle here says the NHL and NBA throws their athletes in their own hotels.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't know that. I don't know if that's. I mean, I'll take your word for it, Kyle. I'm not sure, but I don't. Would you want that? Like, isn't
I don't know.
Part of it the experience?
100%.
To be in the athletes' village,
and it kind of separates. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like all these prime athletes who are making millions of dollars are in like the Hyatt or whatever it is over there, and like Sarah Nurse and M. Mashmeyer are bunking together. I don't know. It just, if I was them, I know I would be worried about security and fans and stuff like that. But I imagine in Olympic Village,
it's tight as hell.
You can't just walk into an athlete, dormitory or whatever. Yeah. But I would love to see, couple guys who make $100 million bunking together. Like that's part of the Olympics.
It'd be great. And like there's the social side of it as well. Like, to make an adult point here, not for kids or whatever, who cares? Like I remember hearing somebody that was involved in working the Vancouver 2010 games, and one of the things that they specifically did was like make sure they were like putting condoms out all over the place in the athletes village, because apparently like it's a real party in there too. And
it's wild.
You've got the world's fittest, most beautiful people all getting to know each other for the first time. Maybe you have like the Latvian biathletes hanging out with the Swedish speed skaters, hanging out with the Swiss alpine racers. Like, who knows, right?
Well, they're doing a lot of extra security, even on the dating apps that people are using. For the Olympic Village this year. Like you can't use like some of the location services, because normally you turn on a thing and be like, I'm in this vicinity looking for other people, but like.
You're talking about like Tinder or whatever?
Tinder or Grindr or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the apps have taken extra security features if you're in these locations, because literally people can get in and around the Olympic Village who are not involved with athletes at all, turn on the location services and try to like get with an athlete. But there's also like there's instances where that could cause like, stalking issues, catfishing, stuff that. So all the apps I commend them. There was a list of them. I was reading a story about it, who are taking extra precautions in and around the Olympics in Italy just to make sure people aren't using it nefariously.
I'm seeing a lot of comments in our live chat. People are critical of the Lululemon. I'm showing it here on my screen right now.
Oh, come on.
The Team Canada gear. What are people hating on it so much? Is it
I don't
just
know.
That
I was digging it. I was digging it. Yeah.
It'll go back to it in a second. I think maybe it's just, what is it? Is it's just too plain? It's just too simple? I don't know.
There's like a vest that's kind of like a Canada Maple Leaf. I think that's
Here,
the
let me
main
get
part.
out of this. And
There's
let
also
me find
a lot.
You can check out.
I get it's the Winter Olympics, but there's a lot of layers to it.
Here is it. Here, my screen's all over the place. If you go to like, I guess this is going to come across sounding like a commercial, but if you go to lululemon.com, you can check out all the Team Canada gear. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's all right. Here's the thing: is like if you look at these opening, closing ceremony outfits, do you say outfits? The gear, the official team issue gear,
fit.
I guess the fit. Oftentimes they're criticized for being kind of too out there and too bombastic, and then other times they're criticized for being too simple. I don't know. I don't mind it. I always sort of think that it's a neat opportunity to showcase kind of like a cultural. To say something about the nation, about the country. So when you see like the, whatever country come out, like the Italians were obviously, had some fun with theirs, and you see the different looks. But I think Canada
dug
looks
ours.
all right.
I know the look they're looking at here. I'll throw it up on the screen if you want to go to YouTube after. If you're listening on the podcast, so this is what they're talking about. The middle guy here, right?
Okay, yeah.
So there's layers to this. They got like boots. They got like layers underneath them. They got a trench coat. I think what they're referring to is the vest. There's like a Canada Maple Leaf, and it's like a vest that kind of is it's almost like a scarf. Like it only goes around the shoulders and the back, but you put your arms through it. But like, here's what I'll say: is like fashion is art, and art tends to piss people off. Like if everything's not form fitting, if everything's not perfect, like obviously this guy is not wearing this vest to compete in. This is just to walk out the opening ceremony, to have some flair, and then you take off the vest and maybe you take off the trench coat and walk around the village, but then you have layers if it gets cold. But art is subjective, just like music. So people hate this. People hate Bad Bunny.
Sharon says she still has her 2010 sweater. Says I still wear it too. Absolutely. I have my 2010 toque, those like red mitts. I have my 2014 windbreaker. Kind of through the years, it's cool. My uncle, Jungle Jim Hunter, I've told this before, obviously a legendary Canadian skier, one of the Crazy Canucks, won bronze in Sapporo in 72. And it was always cool to go to his house down into the basement and just see all the stuff like the Olympic racing bibs and all his skis and medals. And I'm just wild as a kid to be able to go down in the basement and see that stuff. People connect, I think, to their teams through these Olympic, these eras. Like when you say 98, for example, I'm thinking of that hockey team. 02, I'm thinking of that hockey team, right? Scarlett says, give the contract to anybody else. I think that might be a bit of a shot at Lululemon there. Others, everyone's sharing their own thoughts on the fashion. That's fine. We could get into that. I love this email from Ryan, and I wanted to read it. After our conversation with the team at Liaison Strategies last week, you can find it in our archive. Pretty interesting polling on whether or not Canadians would like to see the winter or summer games, for that matter, back in Canada. Of course, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver has hosted. Would Canadians like to see it again? You can check out that episode for details and how it plays out. But it prompted this email from Ryan to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Says, Jesper, I don't even know where to start with this. I am still so disappointed in my fellow Calgarians in that referendum that we voted against housing the 2026 Olympic Games. Says I was only 2 years old when the 88 Olympics happened. I don't remember a single thing during those games, but what I do remember is the legacy that was 88. I remember how in the 90s, how proud this city was, Calgary, of being a host city. I remember going to the Olympic Oval to learn how to skate, being reminded that this place was where Olympians were skating just a few years prior. Says fast forward to present day, about 10 days ago, we took our 3-year-old daughter to the Oval to start to learn how to skate. He says, I still beam with pride that Calgary hosted the games, but so many things have been forgotten. What a legacy that I also get to teach my kids to skate on Olympic Oval ice. Says I was talking with a coworker yesterday about the big things Calgary was able to have because of the Olympics. This coworker, born in the mid-90s, moved to Calgary from Ontario a couple of years ago. She was blown away to learn that the Saddle Dome, the LRT, the UFC, University of Calgary dorms, the old and new Olympic Plaza area, COP, Canada Olympic Park, and places like the Oval are there because of the Olympics. If we had hosted 2026, just think of what else we would have by now. A completed event center, transit to the airport, a completed or at least functioning green line, maybe a new football stadium or a field house for opening and closing ceremonies, and I'm sure many more things. And you know what? He says, my taxes probably wouldn't have changed all that much. We would just have investment in our infrastructure for the next generation. Think of all the great things we could have had for Calgary and for Alberta, things that would be finished by now. But instead, we wait and we debate and we see the costs go up and the quality of infrastructure go down. Ryan says, I'm definitely excited for the games in Italy, but it's going to be really hard for me not to think of what could have been happening in my city over these next few weeks. That from Ryan, an email into talk@ryanjespersen.com. We talked about the obviously the huge infrastructure investments back in the day in Montreal, the Big O, probably the biggest one. And then obviously like the Canada Line, the Sea to Sky Highway, big stuff in Vancouver as well, housing as well. Ms. Katie in our live chat says, listen, guys, the reason people voted against that in Calgary, 56%, says because we could spend money on more important things. And then the narrator voice, those important things did not happen. That from Ms. KD. Ken says, what's Ryan concerned about? You're getting a taxpayer-funded arena down in Calgary. M. Aitken says her friends still have their jackets from 1988. Those Sun Ice jackets, weren't those incredible? You guys know the ones I'm talking about, that kind of like the turquoise and that purpley mauve and that the turquoise, just the white, the way it worked into it. Those were highly coveted Olympic wear by Sun Ice, which is still around, by the way, as a company. I was on their website, Marie, like you. I was thinking about those jackets probably 6 months ago, and I was like, can you imagine if they released like a vintage retro collection of 1988 Sun Ice jackets? I would be first in line to buy them. Those big white Sorel boots, pair them with the big white chunky Sorel boots. Watching Cool Runnings a while ago, the boys wanted to learn about the Jamaican bobsled team, and seeing the Calgary Olympic Volunteers out in those Sun Ice jackets and the white Sorel boots, man, that is a throwback in time. Keep the, of course, comments coming. If anything that we've said has resonated with you, we recognize we're talking about a ton of stuff today. Of course, and we look to your feedback either with comments on our Spotify episodes, comments on YouTube, or emails to our inbox. And that's also how we receive. I'm just going to roll into positive reflections here for a sec, Johnny. We got this one from Garth. First episode of every week, we wrap, courtesy of our friends at Solar by Kuby, typically with an email from one of you to talk@ryanjespersen.com, something that's kind of restored your faith in humanity or made you smile. A random act of kindness, somebody paying it forward. It's positive reflections, proudly presented by Solar by Kuby. And we got this one from Garth just before we started the show today, Garth, and we dropped it in because I love the spirit of your comment. He says, my employer has quietly stepped up to support a relief effort that I was involved in, and it really means a lot to me. He says it feels like a perfect positive reflection. And Garth, I agree with you. He says before Hurricane Melissa made landfall across the southwestern, western parts of Jamaica in October, says I had already been planning a trip home. Garth from Jamaica says to spend time with my mom, my family, and to reconnect. And after that storm, what I saw both on social media and in person was so devastating. It really brought back tough memories of past hurricanes while I was growing up. He says, even so, we decided to go ahead with our trip and use part of our time there to help in whichever small way that we could. And what really stood out to me was seeing my employer, he gives a shout out to Heavy Metal Equipment and Rentals, quietly step in to support that effort. He says there was no announcement, there was no public recognition, I guess, Garth, until now. He says just a company being there when it mattered. And he says it meant something so deep to me, knowing how many Jamaicans are working at Heavy Metal and contributing every day across my now home province of Alberta. Says that connection made the support feel very personal, like a company recognizing the people who helped build it and the communities that they come from. He says the impact on the ground was immediate and the help went directly to people who desperately needed it. In a time when good news can feel rare, I thought that this was a story worth sharing, a reminder that some companies still lead with trust, compassion, and community, even when nobody's watching. Garth, that's incredible, and I thank you for sharing your personal story. Wishing your loved ones well in their recovery from that devastating storm. I was talking to my buddy Blair Jr. the other day. His parents are down there in Jamaica as well, trying to rebuild their lives, and the reality of the magnitude of some of those challenges, even getting basic infrastructure back, clean water, power, and the like. really is significant. Garth, thank you for shining a light on that. It's a perfect positive reflection. Proudly presented by our friends at Solar by Kuby. You can get a free solar quote today or any day by visiting kuby.ca. That's KUBY.ca. Our next episode of the show... You want a talk show that goes across the political spectrum? You'll have it out of the gates. Joining us in our Mercer Warehouse studio, she wants to be the next leader of the federal NDP. She is the NDP member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona. Heather McPherson joins us. And also in the Real Talk studio, midway through a comedy tour that has taken him out of his home province of Saskatchewan, we will welcome in the flesh YouTube creator, farmer, and all-around beauty, Quick Dick McDick. One-on-one in the Real Talk studio next episode. We hope you'll join us. Make it a great Monday.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen. Executive producer Josh Dunford. Technical producer John Hicks. General manager Katie Cook-Chivers. Account coordinator Lauren Sterlego. Human Resources, Lena Shepard. Website design, Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton.